And welcome back, everyone, here to News and Now. Taking a live look in the valley here of Arizona. But boy, is it just a busy day in the sports world when we're talking not here in the valley, but at University of Arizona. Joined by our very own Jude LaCava to break down the Sean Miller statement that just wrapped up not too long ago.
Mike, a very strong statement, very defiant, defending his name, reputation, the university program reputation. I've never paid anyone. I've been in compliance. He was very strong in his denial of any wrongdoing whatsoever. He defended his player, DeAndre Ayton, defended the program, and he made it very clear that he was extremely upset with the false or defamatory
And welcome back, everyone, here to News and Now. Taking a live look in the valley here of Arizona. But boy, is it just a busy day in the sports world when we're talking not here in the valley, but at University of Arizona. Joined by our very own Jude LaCava to break down the Sean Miller statement that just wrapped up not too long ago.
Mike, a very strong statement, very defiant, defending his name, reputation, the university program reputation. I've never paid anyone. I've been in compliance. He was very strong in his denial of any wrongdoing whatsoever. He defended his player, DeAndre Ayton, defended the program, and he made it very clear that he was extremely upset with the false or defamatory, in this case, media reports. Certainly, Schlabach from ESPN, he's got some explaining to do. He made it very clear, and then the real icing on the cake for Arizona Wildcat fans is that he's looking forward to returning to his basketball team. They're on the brink of a Pac-12 championship. They're a highly regarded team. They're a force in the upcoming NCAA tournament. And I thought that Sean Miller had to do something. He had been silent since Saturday, since he stepped back from the team. But there's certainly some intriguing questions here. Okay, he made it very clear that in the case of DeAndre Ayton, he didn't talk to Chris Dawkins until after Ayton committed to the University of Arizona. So the intriguing question one might ask is, okay, why are you even talking to Dawkins to begin with? But the other part of this thing that I find interesting is there may be within compliance a point where Miller has to report, well, this conversation involved another player who never attended the U of A. Does he or does he not have an obligation to report that to the NCAA? That's something we'll have to get further judgment on. But I thought that he had to say something. He was very strong in his comments. I've done nothing wrong. I've been defamed. They've sold the reputation of the program, myself, DeAndre Ayton, and I am getting back to business as usual. You know, I have never seen such erroneous reporting across the board from Friday night on. Now, in past cases unrelated to this one, I will tell you the FBI has a tendency to leak information to certain media outlets to kind of validate their case. I mean, it's kind of like par for the course. This is what they do.
Yes.
So when it came out that there was a wiretap with Sean Miller on it involving Chris Dawkins, we never knew the context of it. It could have very well been, well, no, we don't go there. You may be discussing $100,000, but I'm not going to do that. That's not what we do here at Arizona. We never knew the context of the conversation of the tap.
No, we just got that little blurb, and that was
That's right. That's right. And then, you know, the thing turned into going nuclear here. So, you know, this statement had to come out. The Arizona Board of Regents will meet at 2 o'clock today. Already, a couple of the regents, which I find kind of uncharacteristic, have come out and said the erroneous and, quote, shoddy journalism that's played out here is making this awfully difficult to really pass judgment on the status of his contract, the status of his position. You know, generally speaking, the Board of Regents, they have to validate and verify a contract from an incoming coach, let's say like Herm Edwards or Kevin Sumlin. And they also have to agree on the settlement if there's a firing, let's say like Rich Rod, and the amount of dollars involved there. They have to kind of answer as that go-between as a state employee. So I've said all this all along, that we've been cautious in evaluating his case only because we only know little snippets and pieces of the puzzle here. Now, let's not forget this, though, that this is important. Book Richardson, the assistant coach, was arrested. He's been charged with bribery and fraud. And, you know, his fate is still very much pending this whole investigation and then court date, which will come perhaps as early as later this year. So there's still a lot of questions out there, but I think Sean Miller did what he had to do. I know, you know, it's kind of funny, Mike, when I get criticism on Twitter, because I said one of the things that I thought Miller could do was make an appeal because his character and his reputation has been defamed, to allow the judge to unseal the wiretap for all to hear.
Yes.
And that would, you know, that's rare. It's not easy to have done. But if he would at least have made that statement, he could have said, look, you know, I have nothing to hide here. Sure. All right. But what's interesting is that, are you a Sun Devil or are you a Wildcat? Because the Sun Devils, I'm not going to kid you, a lot of, not all of them, they relish in this because you're looking at taking down one of the more storied programs in college basketball, the legacy of Lute Olson, everything that goes with it. So I always kind of say, well, now wait a minute. If you're criticizing me on no rush to judgment, are you a Sun Devil fan? Or are you, you know, where are you at here? Because
that's when you have to then look at their profile.
You have to look at their profile. Okay, where are you coming from on this? And in this craziness, there's been a rush to judgment. I mean, you know, it's part of the news now culture in a sense that social media, I want an answer now, fire him, get rid of him. Jay Billis, a respected guy, knows basketball inside and out. I like Jay, I respect him. Came on Saturday afternoon, said he'll never coach again. Well, that's not true. And I would say to Jay, well, wait a minute. You know, back in September, you called Sean Miller one of the most credible, respected coaches in basketball. Now you're saying he should never. Dick Vitale went off. Oh, you know, you know, cool it, man. I mean, there's something called due process, and this man's a lifer. He grew up playing basketball. He played collegiately. He's been coaching for years. You know, I know people don't like to say this in today's. You know, give me the information now. Give me the decision now. But you have to let the process take place.
Sure, because then you could potentially ruin a man and a career.
And a program.
And a program,
I mean, it's already affected recruiting. Shaquille O'Neal's son is decommitted. He's going to go from Arizona now to UCLA. So, you know, as much as everybody wants definitive action, I want to know now, you know, get rid of the guy. Or this, you've got to try to stay with the facts. It's a very complicated case. It's a case that's been going on for the last 2 years. It's a case that I think could knock on the doorstep of some of the most storied programs in college basketball. I mean, does this involve Duke? Does it involve Michigan State? Does it involve Alabama, USC? Yes, of course. How far does this go? And let's not forget, there's some very ambitious FBI agents that are trying to do their job and trying to make a name for themselves and saying, look, this is corruption, and we have a job to do to uncover it. But you have to go back to what Miller said today. He must feel awfully confident to say what he said. The university must feel awfully confident
to put him out there
to say, okay, well, he's returning. And I tell you what, the place to be in the entire country tonight is Tucson, Arizona, when they run out on the court, because those fans, I guarantee you, they're going to erupt. They're going to say, look, this is our program. Everybody's out to get us. Time out a second. Let's slow this thing down. And I'm not trying to be anti-Sun Devil or anti-Wildcat. I'm just simply saying that these cases are long and drawn out. And before you charge somebody with guilt, you better have your facts right.
And that's a good point. What do you think this last week has been like for Sean Miller?
Oh, it's a nightmare. I mean, I talked to his dad.
Oh, did you?
I talked to his dad yesterday. He's back in Western Pennsylvania. His dad is still, I believe, coaching a women's high school team or a women's club team. This is a basketball family. And I'm not trying to defend Sean Miller. I'm just trying to be objective here. And his dad did not want to do an interview on tape, but he did express to me that this investigation is ruining my son's life and career and everything he worked for. You know, obviously a father's going to do that, protect his son. He was very, very gravely concerned about the fate of his son, and you get that, right? But I think what I'm trying to say is let's get to the facts. Listen, he came out and denied we've never paid a player. I've been in compliance. Book Richardson hasn't. I've been in compliance. We don't do that here. So, you know, you've got the consultation of attorneys. You better feel pretty darn confident if you're making those statements that the FBI and these wiretaps, they don't have anything on you. If you're going to make that statement, you better back it up, and you better be really confident that you have not crossed that line. But there's a lot on the line here. This is a program that won a national championship about 20 years ago. This is the legacy of Lute Olson. This is a program that has maybe the top player in all of college basketball, and DeAndre Ayton. He's had success there following a legend. And all I'm simply saying to fans that are ready to run Sean Miller out of town is get the facts first.
Yes.
And as much as we all want to see, give it to me now. There's a snippet that was leaked out that we don't know the context of regarding the wiretap. Now, Sean Miller made it very clear. I don't play players. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was a very aggressive defensive move. I think the question now will be, what will the FBI do when it comes to leaking more information?
Yes.
Do they have more here? What does Book Richardson say? I think the next, to advance this story, Mike, Book Richardson has been charged. He's been arrested. Does he roll over to save his hide and say, look, you know what? That's not the case. I've got a lot to talk about regarding my head coach. Maybe he doesn't. Listen, believe it or not, I've been around college basketball enough to know that even back in the days where you didn't have, the technology or social media, an assistant coach would do a lot of different things, and the coach would simply say, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. You do what you got to do. I've hired you, and that's it. There are coaches that are insulated from unscrupulous assistants that are trying to make a name and get a head coaching job. But the question will be, under oath, if they question Book Richardson and he's deposed and he says, look, this isn't the case, this is what really happened, this is how the money was funneled around, whatever, then that's a whole other set of circumstances. But I've noticed from day one, Mike, and this is really key, is that the names have been wrong, the dates have been wrong.
Because how many times now has ESPN had to update their story?
Numerous times.
It's more than two, right?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then there was even a report about if he gets fired, does he walk away with $10 million or $6 million? And they had a nice review of cause or no cause. Well, there's another Arizona law that suggests that if this particular contract violates public policy, it goes against Arizona law. So in other words, both of those stories that were out there by a very accomplished financial reporter are bogus, because the law kind of trumps that by saying, listen, if this goes against public policy, we just simply work on a settlement and negotiation. So what I'm trying to prove here is that a lot of the reporting has been inaccurate. Now, we've tried to look at the basics. We've had a U.S. attorney on, Andrew Pacheco, and he said, look, Sean Miller's never been charged with anything to this point. Why hasn't he been charged? All right. The other part of it is we don't know the context of the wiretap. We certainly know that the culture of college basketball is one of an insidious nature, that this does go on. I'm telling you, I know that it goes on. I can tell you one brief story. I won't mention any names because I don't want to get sued. But there's a top high school player, all right? This is a great story. This is true. It's told to me by a couple different sources. And this kid is a top high school All-American. He is offered over $100,000. Now, by the way, this was about 12 years ago.
So this
this
is a big time,
So he's offered $100,000 by a top program, major college program.
Sure.
He takes the money, and then he goes to the NBA.
Oh.
So he goes to the NBA.
Yeah.
And they can't report him because they look bad.
Yeah.
All right. He takes the money and runs.
Yeah. Wow.
And then he has about a 12-year NBA career. So, I mean, he went direct from high school to college, took the cash and ran. So, listen, this goes on. Let's not kid ourselves. But the question is going to be, who's been doing it, who hasn't been doing it. Look, there's no doubt there's still some questions here. But I thought, from a standpoint of what Sean Miller had to do, he defended himself. He was very clear. There was no gray area that we are in. This is what we do. We don't pay players here. I haven't. I never will. And I've tried to do everything right since I arrived on this campus. Now, there's more to this story, but you saw a man defending his honor, his credibility, and the program that he represents. And it's a fascinating story, because there's no doubt when you look at the AAU clubs, when you look at these runners that want to become agents,
yeah.
when you look at the amount of money with the shoe companies, and I think that's the next thing to fall here, these shoe company representatives.
All these endorsements.
Yes, that are funneling money early on, especially to the one and done guys that are going to be top players in the NBA. Listen, you get this guy, and then don't forget, when he signs his pro contract, we've got an Adidas contract for him or a Nike contract for him that's going to be into the millions. That's legit. This stuff goes on. I'm not naive to say this doesn't go on. It does go on, and it goes on in a massive scale. With, I would say, and this is conjecture on my part, take the top 50 recruits that are that talented, and then draw a line to where they go, and try to find out what's going on there. Because if you're a top player that can impact a program, you're valuable, you're worth money, and if you want to get paid, there's a way to get paid.
There we go. And you're right, though. Definitely, probably the loudest place on this planet is going to be in Tucson tonight.
Yes. It's going to be something else. I mean, he's defended himself, and it appears that he's got the university support. And I think that's unique. Now, I know Sun Devil fans don't want to hear that, but I just find it fascinating that, you know, there's one thing, as an old school reporter to some degree, social media wants answers like yesterday, and in a case like this, you can't rush to judgment. There is fairness here in the reporting, and I think that's the biggest thing I would say to fans, is that whether a U of A fan or a Sun Devil fan, is that you are looking at trying to be, what if that was you?
Yeah,
what if you're in that situation? You happen to be a coach, and you've been blitzed by these reports, you've been called out by the top analysts in the country, and you'll never coach again, and you're sitting there getting shelled,
just pummeled,
and you're trying to defend your livelihood that you've worked your entire lifetime to. Okay, I'm just saying that.
Yes.
And listen, I've been aware of a lot of cheating and finagling that's going on in college basketball. Been around it a long time. You know, when you see some of these players years back that are driving brand new, you know, Escalades and all kinds of bling, and you're saying, wait a minute, when I was in college, I tried to scramble to go to Denny's, you know, with a $15 or something, you know, to get a good dinner. You know, how are these guys running around with this kind of bling, this kind of car? And look, let's not be naive here. It happens, it goes on. But in this particular case, there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, and we will continue to wait to see what happens. Jude LaCava, thank you so much. Always a wealth of information. And
it's interesting stuff. This is one of the more fascinating cases, because you want to be accurate, you want to do a good job, a fair job, but you can't get there if there's nothing there yet. You know, we don't know all the facts of this case.
Now, you're right, we live in this world now where you want to be first.
Yes. And
it doesn't care who you, you know, throw out the way.
That's right. So, especially when it comes to Twitter.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, one of the things that I stated earlier in the week, I'm not here to condemn or commend Sean Miller, but if I'm in Sean Miller's shoes, I would say to the judge, unseal this and for all to hear it. Let's hear it, because I don't think you got anything on me. But basically, he kind of said that today with his statement. Now, it's rare that a judge would reveal that, but he has tarnished and defamed this leak. The other part of this thing that I think is important is the defense attorneys for Sean Miller. I know, by the way, this has been a big issue with President Trump. Leaks.
Yeah, leaks.
FBI leaks. Okay, well, wait a minute. How fair is that?
Yes.
And does a defense attorney have the right to come back and say, hey, come on, man, you're slanting the case in the way of the government. So how fair is that? You know, stop these leaks. You've defamed my client here. You know, this is unfair. So this is not unusual from the standpoint of what we've seen in Washington, especially over the last 18 months.
Yeah, we've seen it in the political world. Now we're seeing it in the sports world.
Exactly right. Yeah, you know, and there's one other part of this story that you should know, is that one of the undercover agents for the FBI was taken off the case because he used the UC funds, the undercover funds, for gambling, drinking, and carousing. So that's a fact. He was taken off the case. So listen, the FBI, I think they do a phenomenal job, but let's just try to pump the brakes, see what's next, and go from there.
There you go. Well said. Thank you so much, Jude, for breaking it down. We'll be back here with more News Now in just a bit. And our many thanks there to Jude LaCava for breaking that down. You're taking a look here at how the Dow finished for the day, down 420 points, bleeding red today for a close of 24,608. You can see it was in the green for just a little bit, but did not stay long today. While we were on break here for the afternoon session, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, White House briefing. Let's listen in to her.
Traffickers accountable and to ensure survivors have the support they need. This bill is an important step forward, and the White House appreciates the House taking action on a bipartisan basis. Earlier this week, I mentioned that we were going to begin regularly highlighting the historic obstruction of Senate Democrats, an issue that threatens the safety and security of the American people. As a reminder, compared to the 4 previous administrations, this Senate has confirmed the fewest nominees. Half of the president's highly qualified nominees are still waiting on confirmation. Today, we have another example. 276 days ago, Kevin McAleenan was nominated to be Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Kevin's primary responsibility would be to help safeguard American borders, keeping both terrorists and their weapons out of our nation, all while facilitating lawful international trade. Kevin should be preventing terrorists and contraband from entering the nation, yet he is still awaiting Senate confirmation. Senator Schumer should stop putting the safety and security of the American people at risk and immediately confirm him. And with that, I will take your questions. John.
Sarah, the president announced at the meeting a little while ago punitive tariffs on steel and aluminum imports that would take effect next week. 10% for aluminum, 25% for steel. He announced them even though the fine details have not been worked out yet about what countries will be involved, whether there are any exemptions. The Dow's down about 500 points as a result of this. Some of our allies, including Canada, are saying that these actions are unacceptable. Why did the president announce them now, particularly before the details have even been worked out?
The president's announcing his intent to sign those actions next week. We're not going to get into any more details until those details are finalized, but that is what he intends to do next week, and he was making that announcement.
Is he concerned about the results or the effects that his announcement has had so far?
The president's concerned about the men and women of this country who have been forgotten about, the industries that our country was founded and built on, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. This is something, frankly, the president's been talking about for decades, certainly something he talked about regularly on the campaign trail, and something that he's delivering on, making that clear today. And those details and that actual announcement and signing will take place sometime next week. Margaret.
Sarah, the president often talks about stock market reaction to his presidency. Is he surprised to see the market down after making this announcement without explanation on tariffs? Do you have any detail on why he decided to announce it today? As John was asking you, it seemed kind of sudden when we were called in for that event. It wasn't something on our necessarily public schedule.
This is something, again, that the president has been talking about for a long time. It's not a surprise, and we're going to continue doing what we can to protect American workers. That was something that the president committed to during the campaign. This is something that he feels is vitally important. Yeah, that part is new, and he's announcing his intent to make those things happen next week, and we'll have more details on that.
Did he make that decision today?
Again, this is something the president's wanted to do for quite some time.
I would have been surprised to, the press gathered there.
Well,
it wasn't on the schedule.
I don't think that the president always tells you guys everything first, but it's certainly something he's been talking about for a long time.
Some at the White House because there were these competing events.
These are conversations that the president has been having for a long time. He's made his intentions very clear to the team at the White House, and I don't think it came as a surprise to anybody here.
Can you say if 10 and 25 are set, or could that change between now and next week?
I think that's the intent, but until those details are finalized, I'm not going to get into any more specifics right now.
Hey, Sarah, a couple questions for you. First, a number of members of the President's cabinet have fallen under public scrutiny, in some cases, inspectors general for spending, whether it be first-class travel or in the case of Ben Carson, a $31,000 dining set. The president talked about in the campaign that he's going to drain the swamp. So does he plan on draining some of his cabinet?
I don't, in terms of if you're asking if he's getting rid of anyone on the cabinet, I'm not aware that that's taking place at any point right now. To be clear, on Secretary Carson, the order that you referenced was canceled, and they're looking for another option that's much more responsible with taxpayer dollars.
You said a number of times that when the president loses confidence in a member of the cabinet, he tells us. So that means we haven't heard that, so he has confidence in these people. So can you explain why the president has confidence in some of these members of his cabinet, like Carson, Shulkin, Pruitt, and Zinke, who have there are numerous investigations into some of their conduct and spending. So why do they have the president's confidence?
Look, starting with the VA, with Secretary Shulkin, the president is glad for the job that he's been doing in reforming the VA and modernizing the VA, a lot of the movements that they've had there, and he supports him in those efforts. But they're also, we have been reviewing these actions and making sure that we're being very responsible with taxpayer dollars. This is something that the president has asked all of his team to go back and look at.
And there's one quick one on guns. Senator McConnell up on Capitol Hill a few minutes ago said that next week the Senate would not be moving forward with the fixed NICS legislation that Senator Cornyn has put forward. And Cornyn said that they're going to be discussing banking regulation and potentially also human trafficking next week and not gun legislation. After yesterday's session, it seems that Republicans are running away from what the president wanted as sort of a quick solution to this, quick resolution on this front. Why doesn't the president have the clout on Capitol Hill that the president, this Republican president, Republican Congress? Why can't he seem to get Congress to bend his will?
I don't think it's necessarily about bending to his will. I think it's about an ongoing discussion about the best pieces of legislation that they can put forward. Yesterday was certainly an important part of that. The president has met with a number of stakeholders. Next week, he'll also be meeting with members of the video game industry to see what they can do on that front as well. This is going to be an ongoing process and something that we don't expect to happen overnight, but something that we're going to continue to be engaged in and continue to look for the best ways possible to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect schools across the country.
Sarah, does the president want to get rid of his attorney general?
Not that I know of.
And how about Jared Kushner?
No.
Is Jared Kushner becoming a distraction given all the controversies that he's been at the center of in recent days?
Look, Jared's still a valued member of the administration, and he's going to continue to focus on the work that he's been doing, and we're going to continue pushing forward on that front as well.
And are there any concerns about conflict of interest given those meetings that he had with executives from companies that gave his family business millions of dollars in
I would refer you to the statement that was put out by his attorney,
but
John.
conflict of interest appearance even? Concerns about that here at this White House?
Again, I would have to refer you to the statement put out by his attorney, John.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Back on the tariffs announcement, is the president concerned about the impact that this may have on America's allies, like Canada, the UK, the EU?
The president's biggest concern is making sure that we're doing everything we can to protect American workers, and that was what his announcement on his intentions next week are specifically geared towards. This isn't something that he's shied away from or something that he hasn't spoken about regularly and often, or something that he's going to stop talking about at any point soon. Blake? Sorry.
Retaliation from
I'm sorry, I can hear you.
Is the president concerned about any retaliation coming from any of the countries that may be impacted by this announcement?
Not that I'm aware of. Blake?
One final thing, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Just wanted to ask you about a comment and get your reaction to Republican Senator Ben Sasse put out a statement in regards to these new tariffs. He said that the president is proposing a massive tax increase on American families. Protectionism is weak, not strong. And he concluded by writing, "You'd expect a policy this bad from a leftist administration, not a supposedly Republican one." Do you have a comment on that?
I don't know that the president will or should ever apologize for protecting American workers, and certainly not to Senator Sasse. Like,
Thank you, Sarah. Let me try to drill down on this. You say you won't be getting into details at this point. So if there are details to get into, should we read into it that there will be exemptions for certain countries?
Again, I'm not going to get ahead of the final details that'll be put out next week. At this point, there's no additional information to share as this is all being finalized.
Has the president made up in his mind which countries he might exempt, or at least is considering?
Again, I'm not going to get into any details on this front, and I don't have anything further to add on his intentions that'll take place next week. We're a little bit tight, so I'm going to keep moving. Jordan.
Thanks, Sarah. Yesterday was the deadline that Chairman Gowdy set for the White House Chief of Staff to reply to his questions about security clearances at the White House. Was that request met? Did the Chief of Staff send a reply to Chairman Gowdy?
We're having conversations with the committee, and we're going to continue working with them, and I can't go any further than that at this point.
Time do you think that you might answer the committee?
Again, we're in regular conversations with them, and we're going to continue working with them. Trey.
Sarah, this week the President expressed frustration with his Attorney General and the Department of Justice as it relates to the process to look into FISA abuses. What would the President like to see done differently?
Look, the President's made clear that he has a lot of concerns, like you said, with the current FISA process. Nothing makes the problems of FISA cleaner than what was outlined in both the Republican and Democrat memos. The FBI used political campaign material to get a warrant to spy on American citizens. They failed to disclose to the judge that the dossier was funded by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, even as it was being used to spy on people associated with the Trump campaign. Obviously, that alone shows us that the process needs to be looked at closely and reformed to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the privacy of American citizens.
And as it relates to that tweet, could you elaborate on the relationship between the President and the Attorney General? Does President Trump believe his Attorney General is disgraceful?
Look, the President's made his frustrations very clear. I don't have anything else to add. Dave?
What was the President's reaction to what the mayor of Oakland, California did last weekend when she tipped off residents that there was an imminent immigration raid coming? Does he feel that the mayor broke the law and now the Justice Department is looking into that?
I think it's outrageous that a mayor would circumvent federal authorities and certainly put them in danger by making a move such as that, and that's currently under review by the Department of Justice, and I don't have anything else to add. Olivier?
Thanks, Sarah. I got two for you. First, I know you're averse to providing details about the tariff plan. Does the President plan to couple the tariff plan with any policies to mitigate the impact on, say, the auto industry?
Again, I don't have anything else to add at this point.
Very open-ended, did you take note of President Putin's speech, and do you have a reaction to his rhetoric and threats about these invincible weapons?
Yes, President Putin has confirmed what the United States government has known all along, which Russia has denied. Russia has been developing destabilizing weapons systems for over a decade in direct violations of its treaty obligations. President Trump understands the threats facing America and our allies in this century and is determined to protect our homeland and preserve peace through strength. U.S. defense capabilities are and will remain second to none. And now, because of the new defense budget of $700 billion, our military will be far stronger than ever. As the President's nuclear posture review made clear, America is moving forward to modernize our nuclear arsenal and ensure our capabilities are unmatched. John?
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Two short questions. First, can you confirm or deny that the President has made a decision to go for the outside for a successor to Hope Hicks as communications director rather than promote from within?
The decision on that hasn't been made. I don't have a personnel announcement.
The other thing is that the President has a good relationship with Senators Manchin of West Virginia and Toomey of Pennsylvania. Has he been in touch with either of them to discuss further the proposed universal gun ban that's been floated around since last week?
I know that they were both attended the meeting earlier this week. The President also spoke, I believe, with Senator Toomey earlier today, but has not seen that final legislation as discussions are still ongoing, and so I can't say, where we fall in position on that piece of legislation at this point. But he is continuing to have conversations and is going to continue to be engaged with members of Congress across the board. Francesca.
Thanks, Sarah. Attorney General Jeff Sessions was due to be at the White House today for the Opioid Summit. Did the President have an opportunity to speak to him while he was here?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Moving on to gun violence prevention, the President said yesterday that he would sign a bill, and then he said, and I will call whoever you want me to if I like what you're doing. If senators, if the House, if Congress passes a bill that does deal with school safety, gun violence, is the president committed to signing whatever they pass?
The president's not going to unilaterally say without seeing that piece of legislation, but he does want Congress to come together and put forward a piece of legislation that addresses the safety in schools and gun violence specifically. And he laid out a number of things he'd like to see in that. And so we're hoping that Congress will continue working with us and put a strong piece of legislation forward. I'm going to take one last question. The president, hey guys, hold on just a second. The president's headed over to speak at the Opioid Summit here momentarily. I'll take one last question. Sarah?
The gun debate, Sarah. So according to the White House readout, there was a phone call this morning between South Korean President Moon Jae-in and President Trump. Moon Jae-in briefed him on the inter-Korean talks. The South Korean government is also saying that they plan to send a special envoy to North Korea soon. How does the president feel about the dialogue between North and South Korea? Does he welcome it, or is he concerned? And does he feel that President Moon is being too soft on North Korea?
The president wants to continue working with South Korea. It's a strong ally. We have no daylight between the two of us. We're going to continue those conversations. Again, the ultimate goal is to denuclearize the peninsula. That's what we're focused on, and we're, excited about any steps moving forward in that process. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to move out. The president will be speaking here in a couple minutes.
All right, so that was Sarah Huckabee Sanders just a little bit ago. We're taking you out live now. This is Ocean City, New Jersey. See the boardwalk right there as a nor'easter is coming to the coast. And this is a great shot here as it's going to be really taking on that region starting tomorrow and into the weekend. Much different when we take a look at our other tower cam, this time at Port Canaveral. And pretty soon, we are expecting within the next 30 minutes, we just have to wait about 30 minutes, folks, and we are going to have a live NASA launch at Cape Canaveral. We'll have all of that for you right here on News Now. All right, welcome back here to News Now as we take a look at the Capitol, and a lot of talk as of late about gun law changes, and a lot of people want to know how to protect your students in a classroom as well. A lot of talks after that tragedy there in Florida. I'm joined now by Ashley with AR-500 Armor right here in the Valley, who you have some options here to protect children in classrooms.
We do. We have a couple different options. We have two soft armor options.
And so bring it. So
I'll show those both to you.
Okay.
Here we go.
So these are what you would put right in a backpack.
They can slide right into the back. If you have a laptop compartment, they'll fit into most backpacks. They're 11 by 15 inches. They're level 3A, which means they're rated against rounds with a velocity up to 1,470 feet per second. So that's going to be the majority of your most common pistol calibers, your 9mm, your .44, stuff like that. These are a great option for protection because they're so light. I mean, feel them.
Yeah.
Like, they're so light. They're the hybrid is 1.5 pounds, and our Rime Leg is 1.6 pounds.
Okay. Okay, now, what kind of a response have you been getting since 2 weeks ago?
Our sales have gone up on backpack armor almost 1,000% since the tragedy in Florida.
And what kind of questions are parents asking, and what are they really asking about?
It's mostly safety concerns, and it's not just parents either. Like, people are calling in to put them in briefcases and in purses, and there's, especially with how light both of these soft armor options are, you can put them in almost anything.
Okay.
So
now, so when you would have, you'd have this.
Sorry, and we do have one more if you're interested.
So you would have this in a backpack. Now, if there was unfortunately a shooting rampage, would the student put it on this way then when they're walking out, or would they still put it on their back?
So I mean, it depends on where the threat is coming from, and if you know where the threat is coming from. If the threat's behind you, you want it on your back, right? Because that's where you need the protection if they're shooting as you're running. If they are in front of you, I mean, you can put it on your chest and wear it out. A lot of people will hold it kind of like a shield. If you're under a desk or something, you want it to cover your vital organs, right? Like, that's what you need to protect.
Yes.
So this one that we actually have in here too is our steel backpack plate. And as you can feel, it's much heavier. That's about 8 pounds. This is 8.4 because, because it has the Paxcon buildup on it, which helps protect against fragmentation of the actual round itself. So it helps protect against basically getting bullet fragments in other parts of your body after impact on the plate. So this is rated a little bit higher. This is a level 3. So it's rated against bullets or rounds with a velocity of up to 2,780 feet per second. So this is going to be more of your rifle rated backpack armor. But again, it's definitely much heavier depending on what you're putting it in. If you're putting it in a child's backpack, this might be a little heavy for them. A college student, they could probably tough it out.
Now, for children, let me ask you: would this scare children though? Putting this, then, would they ask, what's this for? What's going on? And then would you? So it opens up a dialogue. Almost, right?
Yeah, 100%. So the way I personally would talk to kids about it, or, I mean, anybody, is it's for your protection. It's nothing to be scared of. This is to help you in case the worst scenario occurs, right? So this is something that you want to have, but hopefully never have to use,
Yeah, so this is more of another layer of protection there for the students there. And how long have you guys been around doing this?
So AR 500 Armor was founded in 2012. We've been making backpack armor for a while. I'd honestly have to check and let you know specific dates when they started. But I mean, it's not like it's a new thing, you know. But I didn't know about backpack armor until I started working for AR 500 Armor. So it's nice to do these interviews and create awareness and let people know, hey, this is an option. So if you don't want to conceal carry, if you don't this is another option for your protection.
And it's interesting that you bring up, not just for students too, but people are putting in briefcases and luggage even. And
yeah, I mean, you can, this one, the steel plate is 9.5 inches by 13 inches. And then, as I said earlier, the two soft plates are 11 by 15s. We also have the rime leg and a 10 by 12. So there are different options depending on sizes that you need as well. But yeah, I had all 3 of these in my work bag earlier, and they just slid right in.
There's a little workout too.
Oh, 100%. I'm I can do curls with this.
Right. And hopefully that's all you'll be doing with them.
Exactly.
That's just another added protection, really kind of showing us what the world that we live in now, where, unfortunately now it used to be just putting pens and pencils in your kid's backpack, and now we live in this world, but it's good to see that there's other safety measures there. Just in case the worst case happens.
Yes.
Because we see all this bad stuff there on the news and we say, oh, that'll never happen in my community. But then when it does, you're like, I wish I had something.
Exactly. And this could be that something for somebody.
All right. Well, Ashley, thanks so much for coming on with AR 500 Armor. AR 500 Armor.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll be back with more news now in just a little bit.
This is a Fox 10 News Alert.
And welcome to News Now for this news alert here that we are having for you. Sky Fox live in the air for a multiple injury accident here in Phoenix. This is 32nd Street in Roser. This is the information that we are getting from the Phoenix Fire Department as crews are on this scene of this multi-vehicle accident. Initial patient count is 5. critically injured patients. All patients are being treated and in the process of being transported to local trauma centers in the area. 2 of the patients are adult and the remaining 3 patients are pediatric. Phoenix Police Department will be in charge of this investigation. That is from the Phoenix Fire Department. So you can see a very bad wreck here on this Thursday afternoon here in Phoenix. Thanks to all our viewers right now worldwide on the Fox 10 News Now stream, as well as Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live. This is a bad accident that you are just seeing for the very first time. Sky Fox is doing the aerials right now. This is what we can tell you, that the Phoenix Fire Department responding to this scene here. Initial patient count right now is 5 critically injured patients. All patients are being treated and in the process of being transported to local trauma centers there in the area. 2 of the patients are adults and the remaining 3 are sadly very young children. So we are hoping for the very best here, but you can see a very bad accident here on this Thursday afternoon. You're taking a look, Sky Fox aerials showing you in Phoenix today. Once again, folks, if you are in the area and you know this area well, why don't you hit that share button so you'll be alerting your friends and family to just avoid this area, as it's going to be shut down for quite some time to allow for the investigation here. We are learning that 5 people had to be taken to local trauma centers, unfortunately. 2 adults and 3 young children here. This is all happening in Phoenix right now. You are watching worldwide with us on the Fox 10 News Now stream and Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live. Remember, when breaking news does occur, we do have you covered on multiple areas that we could stream with. But as we can see here from this area, a lot of debris, obviously, from this collision. Investigators will try to figure out how this unfortunately happened. We don't have updates. All we know is we have 5 critical people taken to the hospital here. Happening on this Thursday afternoon, and still see a lot of investigators here. Everybody has been taken to the hospital that needs to be. Fire truck and crews on scene, as well as the police. You are watching worldwide with us here on the Fox 10 News Now stream. And this is always just another reminder. Always pay attention on the roadways. It doesn't even have to be on the highway. Anytime you get behind the wheel, you gotta be in focus. You gotta pay attention. You really got to become a defensive driver now these days, because sometimes you take a look while you're driving and you look to the left of you, there's somebody on their phone. You look to the right of you, maybe there's somebody putting on their makeup. We don't know what the situation here was, but it's always best to drive defensively. Always be on the lookout. There could be a collision coming to you. There could be a collision coming to one of your friends while you're in the car. Be ready for absolutely anything. Folks, if you are just joining us here, either on fox10phoenix.com or Fox 10 Phoenix Facebook Live, obviously a very bad wreck here. We are learning that 5 people had to be taken to the hospital, 2 adults and 3 young children here, and we don't know the status as of late, but we do know that they were taken to trauma centers in very critical condition, and we're hoping for the very best here. As you can still see, people are still being taken right now to hospitals. So very fluid scene, very raw emotion here, and prayers and thoughts with everyone. All right, folks, welcome to the Fox 10 News Now stream. We're going to take you out to Florida right now, where there is going to be a space launch in just a little bit. Rocket launch coming.
Go. Ops Safety Manager. Go. ULA Safety Officer. Go. Vehicle System Engineer. Go. Anomaly Chief. ACs, go. Range Coordinator. Clear to proceed. Launch Director. You have permission to launch. Proceeding with the count.
And as you heard, launch conductor Ed Kidda has received a go from all stations to continue the countdown. We're scheduled to release the hold in about 1 minute 45 seconds and count down to an on-time liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket and NOAA's GOES-S spacecraft at 5:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
L minus 5 minutes, 30 seconds.
Start list data capture. Roger. NSC, verify spacecraft on internal power. Spacecraft is on internal power. All steps complete prior to terminal count.
The GOES-S spacecraft configured for launch on internal power. Everything is go. 5 minutes away from launch. We have 45 seconds remaining in this hold. Plan to come out of the hold and launch at the opening of a 2-hour launch window at 5:02 p.m. Eastern Time. NASA Launch Manager Tim Dunn just reporting to Launch Director that NASA is go for launch as well.
On my mark, the time will be T minus 4 minutes and counting.
4, 3, 2, 1. And we are at T minus 4 minutes and counting.
After launch, we'll be hearing the voice of United Launch Alliance's Marty Malinowski providing a status of the flight of the Atlas V and NOAA's GOES-S.
At launch minus 2 minutes, the Atlas and Centaur power will be internal.
Ground pyros have been enabled. Liquid oxygen securing and liquid oxygen topping are underway. Atlas tanks will be pressurized to flight pressure at T minus 3 minutes. Shortly thereafter, the flight termination system will go internal.
Atlas tanks to flight pressure.
Securing LO2 topping.
250.
FTS internal.
Following Atlas and Centaur power to internal at T minus 2 minutes, the ground launch sequencer will command the launch sequencer to start at T minus 1 minute 55 seconds. T minus 2 minutes 14 seconds and counting.
$159.
Vehicle internal.
155.
Launch sequencer start.
And the Atlas and Centaur power is now internal.
Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO.
The flight termination system will be armed at T minus 1 minute 37 seconds.
7.
FTS armed.
We are 1 minute 30 seconds to launch.
The environmental control system will be reduced for launch at T-minus 1 minute, 15 seconds.
1 minute, 20 seconds.
OCU's armed.
SCS count started.
115.
Reduce ECS for launch. Roger.
110.
Vent valves locked.
The vent valves are closed on the Centaur, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen vent.
T-minus 1 minute.
Rock, report range status. Range green.
Range Operations Controller reports range green. Everything is go. T-minus 51 seconds and counting.
T-minus 40 seconds.
Stable at step 3.
Closing in on 30 seconds before launch. 3 seconds before launch, the powerful RD-180 engine will ignite.
Go on.
Roger. 25.
Status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur. Go.
Everything is go. T-minus 15 seconds and counting.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of the Atlas V and NOAA's GOES, a highly sophisticated weather-watching eye in the sky, to join its twin in providing better forecasts and saving lives.
Atlas has begun a pitch and yaw maneuver to steer to its planned path at azimuth of 100.7 degrees.
At 35 seconds, the rocket carrying GOES will reach Mach 1, traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Down, right on schedule. Signatures look good. Roll program is complete. The speed chamber pressures are rolling off as expected.
At 47 seconds after launch, the vehicle will pass through the area of maximum dynamic pressure, or max Q.
Max Q?
This is the point when mechanical stress on the rocket reaches its peak because of the rocket's velocity and the resistance created by the Earth's atmosphere.
Booster has throttled up as expected.
You are also hearing the voice of United Launch Alliance flight commentator Marty Malinowski.
SRB chamber pressures continue to look good, have plateaued.
At 1 minute 50 seconds into flight, the first 2 solid rocket boosters will be jettisoned, followed about a second and a half later by
burnout.
Other boosters.
And we have indication of SRB burnout. Booster engine continues to perform well. Approximately 10 seconds to SRB jettison. And we have indication of 4 solids jettisoning. Looks like a clean separation.
And a clean separation being reported of the solid rocket boosters.
Vehicle
we are 2 minutes, 4 seconds into flight.
The next major milestone, 3 minutes 30 seconds into flight, the payload fairing protecting GOES during its flight through the atmosphere will be jettisoned 3.5 minutes after launch.
Booster has throttled down as expected. Up on the RCS pyro valve activation. We have the RCS pyro valve activation at this point. The system is pressurizing to flight levels. Signatures look good.
Three minutes into the flight.
And booster has throttled back to 2.5 Gs. Preparation for payload fairing jettison.
Ten seconds away from payload fairing jettison.
Up on payload fairing jettison momentarily. And
we have good payload fringe separation and CFLR jettison.
And we have a good payload fairing jettison, exposing GOES-S to space for the first time.
Signatures look good.
We are approaching 4 minutes into flight.
And booster has begun to throttle to 4.6 Gs in preparation for pico. Boost phase cool down is underway. Local pyro valve has been fired.
The call BECO stands for Booster Engine Cutoff. That will happen at 4 minutes 22 seconds into flight.
Boost phase chill down is complete. And we have pico. Shutdown looks good.
6 seconds after BECO, the Centaur second engine, second stage will separate from the Atlas booster.
The RL-10 engine. PN2 purge firing. The RCS is underway. We have ignition and full thrust on the RL-10.
And the Centaur single-engine RL-10C engine ignites for the first time. It produces 22,900 pounds of thrust.
Our steering has been enabled. Fire rates look good.
This is about a 7.5 minute burn of the Centaur RL-10C engine.
Fixed angle, as expected.
Engine cutoff planned for about 7 minutes from now. This is the first of 3 burns of the Centaur main engine.
Continue to warm towards bottle temperatures. Signatures look good. Centaur PU has gone to closed loop control. Current range track shows Centaur making good headway down the middle of the corridor. Current altitude is 129 miles. Downrange distance is 701 miles. Current velocity 13,900.
Weather watching Eye in the Sky.
Listening to the voice of United Launch Alliance flight commentator Marty Malinowski describing the flight of the Atlas and Centaur.
Shows basically a nominal booster. Beginning to see the RCS thermal conditioning firing. Signatures look good. RL-10 continues to perform well. Chamber pressures, lax pump discharge, and fuel venturi, all appropriate for the mark.
We're 7 minutes into the flight of GOES-S. Another 5 minutes remaining in this first burn of the Centaur single engine.
Small loss of data. As resumed, all signatures look good across the dropout. Current altitude is 146 miles. Downrange distance 1094. Current velocity is 14,685.
Eight minutes after liftoff, and everything continues to go well.
We have about 4 more minutes left in the burn of the Centaur main engine cuts off. That would be called MECO 1.
Oxidizer rich condition. DC, box pump discharge, and fuel venturi all look good. Centaur tank pressures remain stable. Storage bottle pressures look good. Batteries are also good. Body rates controlling right down the middle. This track continues to show good progress down the middle of the corridor.
3 minutes remaining in this burn of the Centaur engine.
Centaur main engine burn continues to look very good. Chamber pressures, ox pump discharge, and fuel vent 3 all within expected parameters.
And we are 10 minutes into flight.
Hydrazine line temperatures have barely achieved bottle outlet temperatures at this point. Continue to see light RCS firing. Still running slightly oxidizer rich at this point in the burn. A little less than 2 minutes remain in this burn. All systems look good. And Centaur is now commanding a nominal MR, having worked off the excess oxidizer air.
About 1 minute remaining in this burn of the Centaur main engine.
Centaur main engine continues to look good.
Standing by for the first of 3 burns of the Centaur main engine to cut off, also known as MECO 1.
Good. 4S settling motors on. CRDs have been safed.
And we have MECO.
Fuel tank pressures have been vented down.
About 12.5 minutes into flight. We'll be in a coast phase for about the next 10 minutes prior to relighting the Centaur second stage engine for the second of 3 times today.
Centaur has continued its turn to MES 2 attitude.
From Atlas Launch Control, I'm here with Scott Messer, United Launch Alliance Program Manager. Scott, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And tell us a little bit how this launch is going so far.
Well, so far it is going almost perfectly. The count was very quiet today. In fact, probably the quietest count that I've been through. Actually, from a personal note, the only real big excitement for me was the birth of my fourth grandson this afternoon at T-minus 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, so that's exciting for me. But the count was very quiet, and so far met all the milestones. Everything is looking good.
And so far for this year for United Launch Alliance, this is your third launch in 2018.
It is our third launch, it's a great year. It's a big, busy year for NASA, and we've got a lot of interesting missions working with NASA. The GOES mission, of course, is our third mission this year, as you said, and we've at United Launch Alliance actually launched every GOES mission that has ever launched since 1975. So it's very exciting. We're in the middle of a 3-minute the first coast now. We'll go into a 5-minute burn after that, and then we'll go into a 3-hour coast where we put GOES into the geostationary transfer orbit. Some fun facts. As we finish this second burn, the vehicle will be traveling about 22,000 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, that would be about 7.5 minutes coast to coast from L.A. to New York. So it's moving pretty quickly. And at liftoff, the vehicle weighed about 1.2 million pounds. We have about 2.25 million pounds of thrust that gets the vehicle going. And as I said, we're excited to be part of the GOES mission. It's a great mission for the nation, and helps a lot of people with improved weather predictions.
And so after GOES is in its orbit, what's next for United Launch Alliance?
So as I mentioned, we've got a very busy year with NASA. Coming up in May, we've got the InSight mission, which will be the first Mars mission to ever launch from the West Coast. So that's an exciting activity, followed on in July 31st with Parker Solar Probe mission that will touch the sun, and then finally we'll end out our year with NASA with our last and final Delta II mission, the ISAT mission out of Vandenberg in September. So it's a busy year for us and a lot of excitement coming up.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and congratulations on launch so far, and also your other news.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being with us.
All right, thank you.
Center has achieved a 60% 4S duty cycle at this point. Signatures look good.
"19 minutes, 22 seconds into the flight of GOES-S. Everything continues to go well as the Centaur upper stage ferries GOES S to its final destination in space, standing by for the second stage engine restart at a mission elapsed time of 22 minutes 38 seconds. So about 3 minutes from now.
And Centaur has gone to 100% 4S settling in preparation for MS2. Tank pressures are being increased as well. One minute to MS2.
And 1 minute before the Centaur second stage ignites again. GOES will eventually be in a geosynchronous orbit, which is an orbit that keeps the satellite over a specific location on Earth. By maintaining a hovering position over a fixed point on Earth's surface, GOES are able to constantly monitor atmospheric conditions in a particular portion of Earth's atmosphere.
"30 seconds away from the Centaur second stage engine restart." Again, this is a burn known as MES2, main engine start 2, for the Centaur main engine. We'll hear the call from Marty Malinowski.
We have ignition and full thrust on the Arrow 10. This burn is currently scheduled for a duration of 350.5 seconds.
And as you heard, we have a good main engine start, 2.
U has been enabled and currently commanding in oxidizer-rich condition. Chamber pressures, lots of discharge, and fuel venturi all look good.
This burn will last about 5 more minutes.
Hydrazine lines are at bottle temperatures at this point. And pressures are good. Storage bottles and batteries are as well. Centaur's current altitude is 112 miles, downrange distance 5,470 miles, current velocity 18,544 miles per hour. Continue to see our RCS thermal conditioning clearance. Signatures look good.
We are 24 minutes, 30 seconds into flight. The RL-10 engine continues to fire during its second of 3 burns.
Are performing as expected.
Three minutes remaining in this burn of the Centaur main engine.
EU continues to control near nominal, having worked off the excess oxidizer. RL-10 is looking very good at this point in the burn. Two minutes remaining in this burn. All systems continue to look very good. Operating as expected. Burn altitude, 132 miles. Downrange distance, 6,291 miles. Velocity, 20,954 miles per hour.
GOES has successfully traversed the Atlantic Ocean, and as you can see, is now making its way along the west coast of Africa. Continuing its ascent and its eastward trek to its final destination in space later this evening when it reaches its geosynchronous transfer orbit.
Seconds to MECO. RL-10 continues to look good. MR controlling near nominal. RCS line temperatures look good. We have MECO. Shutdown looks good. We have Forest Submarine.
And there is one more burn remains before NOAA's GOES separates. The third and final burn takes place after a nearly 3-hour coast phase.
So with the successful Centaur engine cutoff and the beginning of the long coast phase, we will now turn things back over to Tori, and later this evening we'll be back here at Atlas Launch Control. Tori?
Thanks, guys. We'll see you after the coast phase. The GOES series features important technology upgrades and advancements. Blair Allen from NASA Edge is on set with NOAA's Jim Yo, Chief Administrative Officer for the Joint Center for Satellite Data Assimilation. Blair?
Thanks so much, Tori. Jim, first thing I got to ask you is, tell me, what did you think of the launch?
Well, this is my first launch live. It was really exciting, I got to say. But I'll tell you the truth, I'm even more excited about the work that's coming up for me and my colleagues putting these new data to work for better forecast and warnings for the American public?
Well, you know, it's interesting because John Leslie, who works for NOAA, told us you were the weather satellite expert. So I imagine from your perspective, with all these new advancements, you have to be very excited about the things that you're going to be able to do now that when GOES becomes operational.
Absolutely. And of course, we started seeing some of the promise of this from GOES-R. You know, we saw the benefits that we were hoping we would get from having the advancements from the advanced baseline imager with more channels, allowing us to differentiate more features in the atmosphere and on the ocean and land surface, from having better resolution that could help us, you know, see the fine structure of storms and wildfires and any number of things like that, and finally having the rapid scanning that, you know, 5 times as often as the previous generation of GOES that help us see the evolution of storms and give more timely warnings.
Well, okay, now speaking of that, just give us a sense. I mean, I know it's fast, but how fast are we talking when you think about being able to see something happening in the data on the satellite between it when it's really happening on the ground?
Right, it's almost instantaneous. In fact, this is really for near real-time warnings and information being passed to the public and to decision makers. We're actually able to scan small areas of the country, 2 of them from each of the GOES-R and GOES-S satellites simultaneously with a 1-minute resolution. So when you have something that's happening really fast, such as a developing storm system, you can focus in on that and be getting images every 1 minute. So you can see when cumulus clouds are piling up and overshooting the top. You know, that's really an indication of a really strong thunderstorm with the potential for spawning really severe weather. We're able to see that in real time, know where that is, and give really effective warnings.
And just real quick, to understand that, the beauty with the GOES-R series actually is you don't have to remove the satellites. You just start focusing on areas of interest, correct?
Exactly. I mean, you're able to scan an entire almost hemisphere from each of these, and what you do to do that rapid scanning is you just focus on part of that scan and refresh the whole disk, as we call it, more slowly. A neat thing coming up now, though, of course, is we'll have one centered over the eastern United States and one over the west, and this is going to give us coverage all the way from as far west as New Zealand, as far east as the western coast of Africa, up to Alaska and down to the tip of South America.
Which is absolutely perfect. It looks like GOES-S and GOES-R are giving us perfect coverage. Thanks so much, Jim. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure being here.
Tori, back to you, and tell Mike Curie he's got a ticket to ride.
Thanks, Blair. That was a great overall look at NOAA's GOES-R program and the ULA Atlas V rocket that lifted off with NOAA's GOES-S satellite just moments ago. We are now in the midst of the coast phase. When we come back, we will learn more about NOAA's GOES-S mission and check back in with Josh and Mike in Atlas Launch Control to take us through the remaining milestones, including spacecraft separation and solar array deploy. For now, let's take another look at today's launch.
All right, folks, so we were continuing coverage there of that Atlas V rocket there. Great launch, no doubt. Welcome, everyone, to the Fox 10 News Now stream. And if you just missed it, here it is one more time.
4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of the Atlas V and NOAA's GOES-S, a highly sophisticated weather-watching eye in the sky, to join its twin in providing better forecasts and saving lives.
Yeah, so they're just going to be re-rocking some of that video there. Let's now move along here, take you to a live look at New York City right now. It is 5:36 there out on the East Coast. We welcome everyone to the Fox 10 News Now stream, or to fox10phoenix.com. Well, if you guys do remember, there's very, very tense moments on the I-17 yesterday right here in Arizona that we had for you of really just these dogs that were on the highway, I-17 in Happy Valley. Take a look at what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was kind of just all over the place, and for a couple of moments it got really scary as we thought at least one of them was really going to get hit by a car as they kept on darting in and out of traffic. This happening, and then even the one went into this mobile home area as well, finally getting captured. Well, today our very own Danielle Miller talked to the DPS troopers that were able to snatch up these two little dogs right there. Let's hear from the DPS officials.
And then both you gentlemen will look right at me. Don't even look at camera. It's just like we're having a conversation, and nothing's live, like you mentioned. So if we mess up, we could do it a million times if you need. So
Don't mess up.
But don't. Both of you say and spell first and last name, also a title with the department.
I'm Trooper King, spelled K-I-N-G. Been with the department 31 years.
Cleve Odegaard. I'm a trooper with the department. Been here 19 years.
All right, and can you spell your name?
O-D-E-G-A-R-D.
Perfect. And is it Cleve?
Cleve, yeah. C-L-E-A-V-E.
Perfect. Awesome. So just walk us through kind of what happened. I don't know if you want to start or just yesterday. What was going on?
Well, there was basically a call from a concerned citizen. We had some dogs running on the freeway northbound on I-17 around the area of Pinnacle Peak. At that location, it's a large freeway going both north and southbound. They reported that the dogs were in the HOV lane itself and on the shoulder of the roadway. At that point, we were all dispatched there. There was a number of us that went to that location. Trooper King actually arrived on scene.
I think I just drove up on it. I didn't even hear the call because I was on a different radio channel. So when I drove up,
what you saw, what was?
Well, the first thing I saw was a lot of people getting out of their cars in 5 lanes of freeway traffic, which is very dangerous. And my first impression was it was an accident. But then once I got up to it, I could see the dogs, and then was advised that it was on a different channel. So I switched to that channel so that we could communicate with each other and work on trying to get the dogs off the freeway.
And how difficult was that? Was that something?
As you saw by the media footage, it's not easy with 5 lanes, 6 lanes of freeway traffic and 2 dogs, very small, that are scared. They don't want to get caught. It's just like they described it. It's kind of like a pursuit.
Crazy, but a 4-legged pursuit.
Yes.
A little different. And then what about for you? When you first arrived, what did you see? What did you experience?
Well, as soon as Trooper King got there, one of the things that actually happened was traffic itself stopped, and people started getting out of their cars, which is very dangerous at that location on interstate. Basically, traffic was stopped, and we were trying to do kind of a rolling slowdown so that we didn't have any collisions on the freeway at the time, so that we could corral the dogs, get them into a car, and get them off the freeway. Unfortunately, that didn't work out too well because people were very concerned about the canines, and they stopped in the middle of the traffic. So it was basically gridlock, and for us to be able to do our jobs, we kind of had to just sift through the traffic, get people back into their cars that had basically abandoned them in the middle of the freeway to chase the animals around. Once we got that cleared up, we took control of getting the canines, and we were able to get at least one of them off the freeway.
And is there any word how they got on the freeway? Or
We have
they came
we have no idea.
And then did people, because there's obviously entrances and exits, so they could have wandered on that way, or somebody could have potentially dropped them, or?
They could have wandered on through an on-ramp, through a hole in the fence, anywhere.
Crazy. And was it a little bit more difficult than a suspect tracking them down, or how difficult was it to get them?
Well, it is a little bit because because they're scared, they're also very small. You don't know which way they're going to turn or where they're going to go, and as you look at some of the footage, as I tried to push them to the side, they'd turn and run back southbound into the traffic, which we were trying not to do because now you can't see them. So I was trying to keep traffic away from them and keep the dogs in front of us and push them to the right side.
And is there any indication how long it took? I saw some of the footage. I just don't know from like when to when to get the dogs.
Probably close to 40 minutes.
Wow.
By the time my sergeant grabbed the first one, at least 40 minutes.
And then once you guys grabbed the dogs, what happened from there? You guys?
Well, my sergeant gave the dog, after he grabbed a hold of it, he brought it to me because I have a cage in my car. So put the dog in the cage, and then I took the dog off the freeway to meet with animal control. And then the other dog had gotten off into the neighborhood, so didn't know where that one had gone to.
And then like you guys said, though, obviously people's hearts are in the right place to stop, and nobody wants to see a dog get hurt. But what would you tell people if they do see a dog running? What's the best thing to do?
Well, you don't want to get out on a busy freeway on foot. I mean, we appreciate the help, but with that much traffic,
would you tell people?
With that much traffic, you really have to be cautious because we don't like being out on foot on the freeway. You never know what people are going to do in other cars. Did everybody see the dogs? Was everybody paying attention? If somebody wasn't paying attention and you suddenly stop and jump out on foot, you're going to get run over. We don't want to get run over. We don't want the dogs to get run over, but we're trying to work with with the dogs, with the public, make it safe to get the dogs off to the side. That's why I was trying to create the traffic break and keep space between myself and the dogs. And once I got additional units there, to try to push them or herd them off to the right shoulder. We appreciate people getting out and trying to help catch them, but you start running around in traffic, somebody's going to get hit.
And then this obviously wasn't a typical day at work for you guys, I'm sure, right?
Not at all.
Not something you see every day is a bunch of dogs running around. But is there anything else that I skipped or missed over? Anything from yesterday that you guys want to add, mention, say?
I think the animal control people earlier talked about, if people would chip their dogs, get a license, get tags, also keep their dogs corralled in their house, in their yard, so they're not out on the freeways or on the roads.
Definitely help.
I got something for you.
Yeah.
How often do you see us dealing with animals, and what kind of animals have you dealt with in this?
For the metro area, it's almost a daily basis. There's always at least one animal call, I'd say at least once a day, and it varies from cats. It's usually dogs, cats, dogs, the occasional duck. In my time, we've seen horses, sheep, cattle, any number of things.
On the west side, we do have burros, well burros that run on the 303, and they oftentimes will migrate towards the I-17.
Okay, folks, we are going to move aside here, take you to some tape playback of the Arizona Board of Regents talking about Sean Miller and the very latest with the University of Arizona.
No, you're going to close the meeting first, right, Chelsea? You're going to read your statements while we're in public.
Okay, thank you for your patience. We're going to reconvene the special board meeting of the Board of Regents in public session. The way I would like to handle this is I'm going to read a statement. Dr. Robbins is going to read a statement. We're going to then adjourn the public session of the meeting, and we will be available, Dr. Robbins, myself, and the athletic director, Dave Hickey, will be in this room. We'll be answering your questions. So again, thank you very much for your patience. The statement: the Arizona Board of Regents met today to receive further legal advice regarding the University of Arizona men's basketball and the multi-year employment contract for head coach Sean Miller. While intense media interest in this issue has prompted much speculation, ABOR and the U of A must act in a deliberate manner rooted in facts rather than conjecture. We owe this to the students, the faculty, alumni, and the Arizona taxpayers we serve. President Robbins fully briefed the board today on his investigation, concerns, and findings regarding men's basketball. Shortly, he will share with you his decision regarding Coach Miller. I fully support his decision. The board fully supports his decision, and I am confident he has been thorough in his assessment of the situation. I also appreciate Coach Miller's forthright statement to the press today. As the governing body of Arizona's public universities, ABOR is committed to doing everything possible to uphold the integrity of the institutions we oversee. This pledge extends to college athletic programs, which must adhere to the high standards established by each university. Basketball, as you all know, is a beloved sport at the University of Arizona and throughout Arizona. The integrity of our institutions cannot be compromised. As a Wildcat, the excellence of the University of Arizona, our student athletes, and the success of future generations of students is deeply important to me. The board will remain in close contact with Dr. Robbins as this process continues. Thank you, and Dr. Robbins, would you care to make a statement?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Dave Hickey and I have decided that Sean Miller will remain the University of Arizona's basketball coach. Media reports last Friday alleged that Coach Miller was caught on a wiretap discussing a payment with a representative of a sports agency regarding one of our student athletes. Since those reports broke, we have sought to learn everything we can from Coach Miller about these allegations. As Coach Miller's employer, we acted to investigate these reports. Earlier this week, we met with Coach Miller at length and asked him direct and pointed questions. He was eager to speak with us and answered every single question we asked. At this time, we have no reason to believe that Coach Miller violated NCAA rules or any laws regarding the allegation reported in the media. Additionally, he has a record of compliance with NCAA rules and has been cooperative with this process. While some might be tempted to rush to judgment when there is an intense public pressure, due process is the bedrock of fair treatment and acting with integrity. With that in mind, we will continue to pursue every avenue of inquiry available to us during this active and federal investigation to fully understand the facts. We recognize that this investigation is ongoing, and we will continue to be respectful and cooperative through its conclusion. Steptoe & Johnson continues its investigation of our athletics compliance, and we will carefully review and act on its conclusions. We anticipate this report will be thorough and based on facts. We want to thank our student athletes for the strength they have exhibited during this challenging situation. We are confident that we will continue to respond with commitment, integrity, and excellence. DeAndre Ayton, who has been subjected to false public reports that impugn his reputation, has our full support. We ask that the Wildcat family rally behind these young men and our coaching staff tonight and throughout the rest of the season. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if any regent would care to comment, and then I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting so that we could take questions. Any comments from any of the other regents? So thank you. I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay. Hearing no opposition to adjournment, the meeting is adjourned, and we will stay here in this room and be available for questions. So thank all of you.
So if anybody has a question, I would just say raise your hand and the chairman can call on you.
So, yes, sir.
President Robbins.
If you would identify yourself and
Pedro Gomez from ESPN. In light of what you just said about supporting Coach Miller and everything, why was he not allowed to coach Saturday's game in Eugene?
Well, the decision was a discussion between athletic director Dave Hickey, Coach Miller, and myself. And because we did not have the details, and as you can imagine, the
Just to follow up, Mike,
yes.
you know, the question was asked, why didn't he coach? You know, again, Pedro's a very good reporter. I think one of the best. They want to know why, you know, if he didn't coach, was there something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if I'm reading President Robbins properly, it was more precautionary than anything. Look, we just want to play it safe.
Yep.
We're not going to overstep some boundaries. We just simply don't know. And then a couple days later, when they did the inquiry, when they, as he said earlier in his statement,
yes,
we asked some very pointed, specific questions, and his assessment was there was, and I'm quoting exactly now, there's no reason to believe that Coach Miller violated any rules.
Mm-hmm.
This is not even criminal, any
yeah.
rules by the NCAA, and then he alluded to due process here, and then he also referenced DeAndre Ayton and all these false reports and applauded him for hanging in there and you know, in hopes that the Wildcat community will rally, which they will tonight. That'll be quite a scene down in Tucson. But I think that, you know, here is a major network that's trying to hold fast on the report that's lost a lot of ground here regarding the validity to the report.
Sure.
When now they've questioned Sean Miller. He's put his name, reputation, career on the line.
Yep.
And they believe that nothing's been violated, not even NCAA rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's back to the phrase we used earlier, rush to judgment.
Yes.
You know, listen, now let's also say this. This is an ongoing investigation. Now, this could change 3 days from now, a week from now, a month from now. But to this point, they believe, or he certainly wouldn't be on the sideline tonight, he will coach tonight. They believe that at this point, based on the information they have right now, which could change down the road, that he should be coaching and running this program. So they've answered those questions.
Mm-hmm.
They've done their due diligence. And let's face it, the most powerful group in this state when it comes to coaches and ASU and U of A, the Arizona Board of Regents.
Yes.
They confirm contracts, they validate contracts, they terminate contracts, they come up with settlements for coaches that have been terminated. So I think when you look at it, I'll repeat it again what Robin said, there's no reason to believe that Coach Miller violated any rules. They also want to be respectful for the ongoing investigation.
Yes.
So I think there's at least to this point right now as we speak, a point of clarity that they believe that he should be allowed to coach this team. When asked by Pedro Gomez, why didn't he coach Saturday, it certainly was a precautionary measure until they could find out more, until they could query Sean Miller and say, tell us on record here what you know, don't know. And obviously they were satisfied because he's coaching tonight.
Yeah, there you go. So that was a strong vote of confidence today.
No doubt.
Saw that at the meeting. And like we were talking earlier, I'd hate to be Stanford today, right? With
There's going to be, you know, look, unless you've been down at Tucson and McHale, there's one game in town. And there's really one big game in town. It's U of A basketball. It's everything to that community. 14,000 strong. It's been a stalwart of college basketball for over 3 decades since Lute Olson arrived. And there's going to be quite an outpouring of an emotional response, at least to this point. So, you know, I think everybody wanted some degree of clarity to this point.
Sure.
That doesn't mean it can't change when you get into these very complex investigations. And I think they got that today. They got it from Sean Miller, at least where he stands. And he was very clear about defending his name and reputation, the program, and being in compliance. And now you get the Arizona Board of Regents saying they're satisfied that due process, you know, should partake in this process. But there's no reason to believe, quote, Coach Miller violated any rules.
There you go. And that's the big thing
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So we'll continue to see how it does play out. But what a week it's been, though.
Well,
Not
you know,
only Sean Miller, but the program and
yes,
and everybody at U of A.
Well, look, when you're under this kind of scrutiny and your fate is hanging in the balance, you know, you're sitting there going, okay, let's get to the truth.
Yes.
You know, really, it's the number one rule in reporting is get to the truth. What really happened? How did it happen? What did you get yourself involved in? And obviously, both parties, especially Arizona Board of Regents and the president, Rob Robbins, they're satisfied with the information. They're satisfied with their questioning of Sean Miller. and or else he would not be on the sideline. So I think it's an interesting case. My understanding is that, you know, ESPN is they've redacted, they've corrected, and now they've come back and they're going to try to defend their report. And now we've got another outlet, SI.com, that is really kind of questioning the report. So, you know, we talked about earlier today that in this era of quick judgment, social media, and drawing conclusions, like yesterday, like last minute, you have a tendency to want to get everything adjudicated in a matter of days, and it doesn't work that way.
No,
the legal process is a long, painstaking process, but to this point, I think Wildcat fans have to be relieved that Miller's back and he's going to coach tonight.
Yeah, and we'll see how it all unfolds tonight. And Jude, I know you got to get ready for your 5 o'clock, but thanks so much for coming on.
Man.
Once again, breaking down your wealth of information.
Well, it's interesting just to see how this thing is played out. You know, and I mentioned this yesterday in a conversation with Sean Miller's dad, who was just at that time devastated. And I kind of asked him, I said, are you willing to talk? Are you willing to and he says, I'm devastated right now. I don't want to say anything. But we feel that this has been very unfair. So, you know, look, this isn't the end of it.
No.
I don't think there's closure here just yet, but I think as far as U of A basketball is concerned, I think they have to be excited that they've held their own with this, and he's back coaching.
There you go. Jude LaCava, thank you so much. We'll continue to see how it all does play out. Thank you so much, Jude. All right, folks, and that's going to do it for us today here on the News Now. It's going to be a shorter one. Pilar is going to be back here on Tuesday, so we will join the conversation and the news starting tomorrow. Thanks so much, everyone.